The Idries Shah Foundation presents The 100 Tales of Wisdom by Idries Shah. Tales, anecdotes, and narratives used in Sufi schools for the development of insights beyond ordinary perceptions. First published 1978, published in this edition 2018. This audiobook is narrated by David Ault. The 100 Tales of Wisdom. Life, Teachings and Miracles of Jalaluddin Rumi from Aflaki's Munaqib, together with certain important stories from Rumi's works, traditionally known as the 100 Tales of Wisdom. Translated from the Persian and presented by Idries Shah. Rumi's childhood and youth. It is related that when the Maulana, Jalaluddin, was only 5 years old, he used to stand up in his cot in a very disturbed frame of mind, having suddenly seen a visions of spiritual personalities like Gabriel, the Virgin Mary, Abraham, and others. When he was in that state, the disciples of his father used to calm him down. His saintly father, Bahuddin Walad, conferred upon him the title of one fashioned by God. Maulana was born at Balkh, Afghanistan, on the 6th of Rabi al-Awwal in the year 604 AH, corresponding to the 30th of September 1207 of the Christian era. Narration. Sheikh Badruddin Nakash al-Maulawi recounts, I heard from Sultan Walad that he had seen a writing in the notes of saintly Bahuddin Walad in his own celebrated handwriting, saying that when Jalaluddin Rumi was only 6 years of age, he was playing on the roof of his house with some playmates of about the same age. During their games, one boy must have suggested jumping from one roof to another. Maulana is reported to have said that that sort of play was but the game of cats and dogs, and so it was a shame that they should engage themselves in such inferior playfulness. He cried, "Let us go up to the skies and meet the angels." And so saying, he disappeared from the sight of his young companions. The bewildered boys raised a hue and cry, and thus all men became aware of the incident. After a few moments, when he reappeared, he was pale and a little frightened, and said, "When I was talking to you, a group of men clad in green mantles descended upon me from the skies, and bore me up into the heavens up above, and took me around celestial spaces. And I heard the hue and cry of you boys over my flight, and these creatures brought me back to you." Even at that early age, like many saintly people, he used to eat only once in 3 or 4 days, or once during the week. Another narration has it that the saintly Bahuddin Walad, Maulana's father, used to say that his son is of high parentage, a true prince, because his grandmother Shumsul Aima was the daughter of Shumsuddin Saraksi, a Saida, descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, whose lineage connects her with the 4th major caliph, Sayyidina Ali, and his mother was the daughter of Khwarazm Shah, the king of Balkh, and the mother of my grandfather, Bahuddin's, was the daughter of the king of Balkh. Thus it is that both in the material and spiritual senses, he, Maulana, had high connections. Another narration has it that Maulana said that he, from the age of 7 years, used to recite the verse of the Quran from chapter 108, The Abundance, which reads thus, "Surely we have given you an abundance of good. Therefore pray to your Lord and make a sacrifice. Surely your enemy is the one cut off from good." And used to weep a great deal in contemplation thereof, until the Lord sent his radiance into my heart, and a voice came to me, saying, "In the name of our magnitude, O Jalaluddin, from now onwards do not subject yourself to an undue degree of spiritual strain, for the portal of refulgence has already been opened to you." And I thus render limitless thankfulness, so that I might enlighten those who come into contact with me. Verse: My entire being has become like a string of the spiritual lyre, since the head of the chord has been touched by the master's hand. Great obstacles I have overpowered, and have thus made the path easy to my friends. The green-mantled figures. It is further narrated that 2 years after his father died, he hied forth to Syria to complete his training in moral and material law, and this was his first journey to Aleppo, where he stayed in the seminary known as Halavia. There the disciples of his father came to greet him and attended to his wants. He stayed for a long time in that city. Kamaluddin Adim, who was the overlord of Aleppo at the time, a man of considerable piety and learning, became a devotee of Maulana and visited him very frequently. The overlord was especially attached to Maulana because he knew Maulana to be the son of a great spiritual figure of his time, and also because Maulana was so remarkable in acquiring knowledge. Maulana's teachers used to give particular attention to his lessons. Thus the other students in the class used to be envious of Maulana's progress in divine literature. Another narrative has it that the head of the college used to complain to the head of the administration that Maulana often disappeared from his room at midnight. Kamaluddin the overlord became distressed by these repeated reports of Maulana's nocturnal disappearances, and he was determined to find out what actually did take place. One night, when it struck the hour of midnight, Maulana was seen to come out of the college, and Kamaluddin stealthily followed him. When they reached the city gate, the gateway opened of its own accord, and Maulana, leaving the town, walked unconcerned towards the mosque of Abraham Khalilur Rahman. Kamaluddin then saw a white-domed building in front of him, full of strange figures, who were wearing green mantles. Such people Kamaluddin had never seen in his life. He saw these strange men greet Maulana. Overpowered by this spectacle, the overlord fainted, and remained in an unconscious condition until the late forenoon of that day. When he recovered, he perceived neither the domed building nor the people who had assembled there at night. Bewildered, he roamed about the desert that whole day until the darkness of the night enveloped him. For 2 days and nights he continued in that state of mind. As the troops of the overlord had not seen the head of the administration for 2 whole days, they were obviously anxious about the safety of their master. A search party was sent out to find him, with the clue that he had made enquiries some days ago at the college about the night wanderings of Maulana, and had possibly followed Maulana when he went towards the outer gates of the city. Post-haste, the search party hastened to the city gate and out into the desert beyond, where one of them rode the whole day looking for Kamaluddin. Incidentally, he saw Maulana too, wandering about, and as Maulana already had pre-knowledge of what they looked for, he told them to go towards the mosque of Khalil. After much searching, the search party found the object of their quest in an exhausted condition, in thirst and prostrate with fatigue, and gave him food and drink. Upon his reviving, he asked the men, who told them where he was, whereupon he was told the man who had given the indication of his whereabouts was Maulana. Kamaluddin said no more of his experiences to his soldiers, and mounting a horse, he rode back to Aleppo. Greatly affected by what he had seen, the overlord gave a reception in honor of Maulana, which was attended by a great number of people, and those who were the Maulana's adversaries were put to shame. Seeing, however, that a tremendous number of people were being attracted by him, and he desiring no publicity of that large scale, Maulana travelled down to the city of Damascus. As Sultan Azizuddin Rumi Badruddin Yahya had written to Kamaluddin the overlord of Aleppo inviting the Maulana to his territory, the overlord received Maulana with great honor. Kamaluddin of Aleppo had also informed the overlord of Damascus what he had seen of the great spiritual attainments of Maulana during the latter's stay at Aleppo. Syed Burhanuddin transmits perceptions to Rumi. It is narrated also that one day Sheikh Salahuddin, may God be well pleased with him, said that on an occasion he, the Sheikh, was sitting in the presence of the saintly divine Syed Burhanuddin, and the attitude was of spiritual contemplation, when the saint said, speaking about Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, in high praise of Maulana's preeminence in the realm of mystic lore, "When in my days of great glory, when I was the tutor of the Sultan, more than 20 times having placed the young Maulana on my shoulders, I had ascended to the high skies in the atmosphere of mysticism, and thus he, Maulana, had arisen into such an undisputed stage of occult distinction, and he owes a great deal to me on that account." When this was reported to Maulana, he observed that it was so, and 100,000-fold like that in fact. My gratitude to that family is limitless. The Monks of Sicilia. It is likewise narrated by Sheikh Sinanuddin Akshari Kulados, he being a man of considerable spiritual attainments, that when Maulana was on his way to Damascus, the caravan reaching the territory of Sis in Sicilia, they pitched their tents at a place where some odd monks resided and practiced the uncanny art of magic. More especially, they predicted future events through their magical knowledge and incantations. Through their weird craft, they made a large income. As soon as they saw Maulana, to impress him, they ordered a boy to rise into the air and stand there between the earth and sky. Seeing this, Maulana reclined his head in contemplation. Instantly the boy called down from above that he must be rescued from his lofty position, otherwise he would die from fear of the man in devotional thought. The monks called up to him to come down. He said, "I cannot descend. I feel as if I am nailed here." Whatever craft of enchantment and spells the monks tried to bring the boy down from the air was of no avail. There, up above, he remained. The monks, realizing that their art was nullified, placed their heads at the feet of Maulana, and asking forgiveness, begged that he might not expose them. Maulana replied that it could not be done unless the formula was recited, "I bear witness that there is no God but God, and I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad is his servant and his messenger." The boy recited this verse and instantly came down to earth. Seeing this manifestation, the monks acted as did the boy, and begged to accompany Maulana in his wanderings. But the master desired them to remain where they were, and said that they should just send their greetings to him and to pray for him. In this way, both the material and spiritual path were laid before them, and in that isolated part of the world, they addressed themselves to the task of doing good to all who came and departed from that locality. Appearance of the enigmatic Shams-i-Tabriz. When, however, Maulana arrived at Damascus, the learned men and others of importance received him with due honours, and lodged him at the Madrasa Muqaddasa, the sanctified seminary, and he busied himself with attention in acquiring further knowledge of religious law. He stayed 7 years at Damascus. At the time, he was 40 years of age. It is narrated that one day Maulana was having a walk in the park of Damascus when he saw that a strange-looking person had appeared from amongst the crowd. Clad in a black felt long coat and wearing a peculiar type of headgear, he was quite a person apart from the rest of the people. Reaching near Maulana, he kissed Maulana's hands and said, "O thou assay master, fathom and assay me." In the rush of people, he was lost in the crowd, and he was Maulana Shams-e Tabriz. The Maulana then looked for him, but he was gone. Sayyid Bahuddin's teachings. After a while, Maulana Jalaluddin journeyed to Rum, Asiatic Turkey, and as he arrived at Caesarea, the important personages of the place received him with honor. Sahib Isfahani wanted to invite him to his own house, but Sayyid Bahanuddin stated that the custom of Maulana was always to stay at a seminary. The number of people seeking enlightenment almost overwhelming Maulana, he took refuge in the solitude of his room. Perceiving this contemplative aspect of Maulana, the great divine, Sayyid Badruddin, said to Maulana that he should now seek his, Badruddin's, company in meditation and learn the spiritual and occult manifestations from him. For he, Maulana, with the grace of God, should henceforth seek a fatherly saint for that purpose. Maulana, noticing the inner urge of the great saint Sayyid Bahaddin, sat at the feet of the master for further enlightenment. As a first lesson, the Sayyid asked Maulana to fast for 7 days, but he replied that 7 days were too few. He would fast and meditate for 40 days, and give himself entirely to the contemplative company of that master sage Badruddin, during which time all he ate was a few barley cakes, and he drank but a little water as breakfast. During those spiritual exercises, he saw the mysteries of the unknown regions, confined as he was in his cell of contemplation. On the completion of the 40 days of fast, when Sayyid Badruddin the saint entered the cell of Maulana, he saw Maulana deep in thought, his mind roaring, as it were, into the realms of the nothingness on high, for whatever is in the world is but in your own self. Seek in yourself whatever you want, for all is you. Having seen Maulana in that state of contemplation, he left Maulana in that condition, and considered that he desired to undertake another fast of 40 days. At the conclusion of the second period of 40 days, the saint entered the cell of Maulana and saw him standing at prayer, tears running over his cheeks. The one who was so intensely engaged in devotion did not pay any attention as to who had entered his cloister. Sayyid, the saint, once again retraced his steps and left the Maulana to complete the third period of his fast of 40 days. Beside himself with fear for the well-being of Maulana, Sayyid, the saint, burst open the door of the cloister, raising his voice in alarm. Thereupon the saint saw Maulana emerge from his cell with a smile upon his lips and a serene expression upon his face. His 2 eyes were 2 rivers of gladness, and he recited, "See in these 2 eyes of ours the reflection of our celestial beloved. Therein see, too, the dance of the image of our Master." Appreciating that enlightenment had been received by Maulana in no uncertain degree, the saint embraced him and said, "You have been the master thinker in all moral codes of life, as in all spheres of spiritual existence. But now you have attained the secrets of that which is the innermost of esoteric life, a degree of attainment which the saints and divines of yore might well envy, and I am grateful to have seen that you have reached that stage of virtue and purity." He thereupon asked Maulana to embark on a mission of enlightening the people, and to light the torch of divine love in the hearts of the seekers after truth. Thus it was that Maulana started towards Konya and began his teaching of the occult law of mysticism. Henceforth he tied his turban like the Arabs, and wore a cloak with wide sleeves, a fashion which had been the custom of the learned men of ancient times. In the course of time, the Saint Sayyid Bahuddin was called up to paradise, and Maulana went to Caesarea to pray for his soul and soon after returned to Konya. It was at that time when the leader of all the dervishes, Maulana Shams-e Tabriz, appeared for a second time before Maulana. It is further reported that Maulana Shams-e Tabriz was a disciple in Tabriz of Sheikh Abu Bakr Tabrizi, who was a basket maker. The sheikh was widely known for his saintly qualities and high mystical perceptions. The great spiritual and mystical attainments of Maulana Shams-e Tabrizi had, however, risen to such a supreme height that Maulana Shams desired to fly higher and higher so that he might reach loftier vistas and greater regions of mysticism. In this quest he roamed the world for years, and he was given the appellation of Shamsuddin the Drifter. The Vision of Shamsuddin. One night he was greatly distressed in mind and raised a cry about his inner urge, and plunged into a state of mind provoked by mystical feelings. And then he most earnestly prayed, "O God, show me one of your great saints, and lead me to one of those whom you love." Shamsuddin was thereby informed that the one whom he was seeking was the son of the leader of the learned, one Bahuddin of Balkh. "Show, O God," prayed Shamsuddin, "the face of such a person to me." He was asked what he was prepared to give in thanksgiving, to which replied Maulana Shamsuddin that he was prepared to give his head for it, as he had nothing dearer in his life. A voice came into his mind, "Go thou to the country of Rum, where thou shalt find the object of thy quest." With fullness of faith and mighty love, Shamsuddin Tabrizi started towards Rum. Some say that he arrived in Rum from Damascus. Others allege that he then again returned to Tabriz and thence travelled to Rum.